Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're doing something a little different, and honestly, I find it really quite exciting. We've got this document here, chapter1english.pdf. Looks like seminar notes. And our mission for you listening in is to explore this text right alongside us, to really get into the ideas directly, without any prior filter. Think of it like opening up a sealed package of knowledge together. We're just going to look at what's inside. I'm really curious to see what we find.
Absolutely. I think this direct approach is valuable. You get to grapple with the source material itself, bypassing layers of interpretation. It lets us form our own sort of initial understanding.
All right, let's jump right in then. The first main part is called the human body as a biological machine. It kicks off with this pretty strong concept. Our existence is driven by the propulsion of the psyche, guided by inherent tendencies. Sounds like an internal force pushing us.
Yeah, and what's interesting right off the bat is the distinction it makes. It says this physical body, well, it's used by another entity. He calls this entity it. Meanwhile, the mind, the I, that's the thinker, the witness.
Okay.
And when that mind, that I, stops its activity, that's when the biological machine itself stops functioning. So it's a layered view from the get-go.
Layered is right. It then starts breaking down the machine's parts, talks about the 10 indriyas.
Right, the organs, 5 sensory, 5 motor.
Exactly. And this thing called Antahkaran, the internal faculty, it's like getting the user manual for this machine.
And the Antahkaran itself, according to this, has 2 sides. One's intrinsic to the mind, linked to something really basic like hunger. The other part includes the sensory and motor organs. It suggests, a deep connection between our mental state and physical experience, with basic drives playing a key role.
Okay, now this bit caught my eye. The notes say this Antahkaran starts the propulsive propulsion, which then impacts the physical body. But, and this is key, the body then turns around and transforms the Antahkaran.
Exactly. So it's not just a one-way street.
Yeah.
It's a dynamic cycle. Our inner world affects our body, and our body's actions feed back and change that inner world. It's setting up this really interconnected view.
Yeah, that seems foundational. Okay, then the document shifts gears a bit. It gets into the inner significance of the Mahabharata. Now, for anyone maybe less familiar, this is a huge Sanskrit epic. Might seem like a jump, but it seems they're using it to understand this human structure.
Right, and what's interesting is how it maps these psychological and spiritual ideas onto the story, like the 10 directions, the usual 6 + 4 corners. The idea is the mind, with viveka conscience, can perceive in all 10 at once, even if we only express things outwardly in limited ways. And that connects to Dhritarashtra, having 100 sons, like many external outputs from one blind mind. It's a powerful image, isn't it?
It really is. And then the 5 Pandavas, they represent fundamental parts of us.
That's the interpretation here. Sahadeva as solid, Nakula liquid, Arjuna is energy or force.
Just the Manipura chakra.
Right. Always fighting. Vima is the aerial factor at the Anahata chakra.
Where matter ends and the other world starts, kind of.
Sort of the boundary, yes. And Yudhishthira at the Vishuddha chakra, always steady.
So it's like a symbolic anatomy lesson using these epic characters. What's the main takeaway from this part, do you think?
Well, the core idea seems to be that the Mahabharata isn't just an ancient story about external events. It's seen here as a mirror of our own inner landscape. The struggles between the characters reflect the conflicts within us.
That makes sense. It mentions the struggle between materialists and spiritualists, shown in Yudhishthira staying calm during the conflict, an inner battleground.
Yes, exactly. And Krisha's role is fascinating. Positioned at the Sahasrara chakra, the sleeping divinity.
The crown chakra.
Yes, who awakens to help the Pandavas, the individual unit, merge into cosmic consciousness, sheltering them, guiding them. It points towards, spiritual potential.
And Sanjaya, Dhritarashtra's minister, he has viveka, conscience. So even connected to the blind mind, there's this capacity for discernment.
Precisely. And Dhritarashtra asking Sanjaya about the battle he can't see. It's like the unenlightened aspect questioning life's events. While the 100 sons, representing the tendencies of that blind mind, try to control the jiva, the soul, which is protected by the Pandavas in Krusha, it really hammers home this inner psychic significance.
So Kurukshetra, the famous battlefield, is the external world, our field of action.
Right.
And Dharmaksheta is the inner world, the psychic realm where the Pandavas, the positive forces, dominate. The real fight is internal.
That seems to be the central argument here, using the epic as a map for our inner life.
Okay, then the notes move to the scope of biopsychology. This feels like it's trying to connect the symbolic stuff back to, well, biology.
Yes, and it introduces something quite specific. A subgland below the Manipura chakra.
The navel chakra area.
Right. And its supposed effect on spiritual aspiration, Sadhaka, through influencing shyness.
Shyness, that's specific.
It is. The idea is that suppressing shyness might actually make it worse later, making us act against our own intentions because our structure is like a machine influenced by these glands and subglands.
It really reinforces that biological machine concept. And the goal stated is proficiency in spiritual practices, sadhana, to gain practical control over this machine by understanding these biological levers. It's a very embodied take on spirituality.
Definitely. And notice how broadly it defines biopsychology. Humans, other beings, two-legged, four-legged flying creatures, even multicellular and unicellular life. It suggests these principles are universal somehow.
And it makes the point that humans generally share a common psychology, that people like Ram, Sham, Madhu, Yadu, presumably just generic names having similar biology. It means they have similar psychic rules, merits, demerits, a shared baseline experience.
Yeah, which leads into the next bit on direct guidance, guiding, and goading. It's setting up ways influence happens.
Right. Direct guidance is without force. Guiding involves effort to bring someone to a path, and goading is about forcing movement using desire.
The example it gives, the old and young men arguing about manners, makes it relatable. We can picture that.
You can.
But then it adds a layer. It suggests activating subglands in the older man's chest, near the Anahata chakra.
The heart center.
Could actually make him react more calmly due to changes in nerve fibers, hormonal secretions. It's a very direct link proposed between biology and psychological response.
Which flows right into biological transformation and spiritual practice. It's explicitly stating this two-way street. Biology changes psychology, psychology changes biology.
And spiritual culture, sadhana, is framed as the deliberate practice to change our nerve cells, fibers, hormones, leading to psychological shifts.
It even says we should learn various psychologies. Human, non-human, even inanimate objects apparently have a characteristic psychology. Interaction requires understanding these levels.
Yes, quite encompassing. And the claim that sadhana can lift someone beyond common human psychology by mastering the nervous system, glands, aiming for a superhuman state. That's a significant claim about transformation.
Without that practice, it suggests we stay within those limits.
And then it states the main purpose of human life: social service, learning, helping others, and crucially, accelerating sadhana towards the supreme goal, parama purusha. Our actions should help everyone's spiritual progress.
Okay, the next section, biological structure, really drills down into the physical form. Our bipedalism is highlighted as a big advantage for sadhana.
Yes, contrasting us with apes like orangutans, chimps, gorillas who can't stand fully erect. The text positions them kind of between bipeds and quadrupeds, suggesting this limits their psychological alignment for these practices. It stresses training to align with our bipedal psychology.
It points out our more developed biological and nervous systems compared to tailless apes, differences in backbone development, brain size.
And that detail about the human fetal tail developing, then regressing, it's presented as a key differentiator.
Interesting. It also mentions premature birth vulnerability and the tradition of wrapping babies, emphasizing the need for the right environment for biological growth.
Then it revisits the tailless apes comparison. Faster fetal tail growth, but earlier stop. Smaller brain-to-torso ratio. Different controlling points for fundamental factors.
Right.
All presented as reasons for limitations in sadhana.
So the argument is that being monosided, straight, and erect aligns these controlling points and gives us a brain big enough for the job. Humans have this advantage, creating an obligation towards supreme consciousness.
That's the gist. Another point made is our legs are mainly for walking, freeing our arms for other tasks, unlike monkeys using arms for locomotion sometimes. This is linked to attaining self-knowledge.
Right. And then this rather bold claim, humans uniquely can challenge Parapurusha with their intellect, thanks to this virtuous human form. It's a remarkable potential it assigns us.
It then touches on tails again, how tailed bipeds might run faster, using the tail like a fifth limb. Monkeys are faster bipeds overall, apparently, but slower than humans just on two legs. The tail helps them jump.
Okay, and then lymphatic glands come into play, affecting movement speed.
Yes. located at joints and elsewhere, influenced by hormones. Crucially, humans can develop this lymphatic capacity through effort, unlike monkeys. This development is also tied to hair growth, apparently.
It contrasts this with underdeveloped glands in youth or eunuchs limiting jumping. The example of the youth and monkey running illustrates how human development over time surpasses the monkey's limits due to these activated glands and hormones.
And there's a final specific biological point. A smaller cranium, potentially in female eunuchs due to biological processes, maybe causing headaches from fewer nerve cells. A specific consequence linked back to these broader ideas.
Wow, okay, that's a lot of specific biological claims. The final major section then pulls back out to socioeconomic theories, trying to connect all this back to society, politics, culture.
The core assertion seems to be, our body, this biological machine, influences our social, political, cultural life. And all that is ultimately guided by the supreme self. Selfishness is seen as the big obstacle to societal progress.
And it argues that political parties, socioeconomic groups, often miss this fundamental point about our biological, psychically driven nature.
Right. It uses the Communist Party as an example now, just reporting what the text says here, suggesting its failure was due to neglecting the human spirit, trying to change society too fast without dealing with inherent human nature. It critiques communist theory as flawed because it's based only on human demand, missing deeper aspects.
It then asks about socioeconomic life's impact, noting it's governed by psychology and our biological structure. Society itself is framed as a biological structure of psychic urges. Norms and rules arise from this.
It mentions Marx's view on state property ownership, linking it back to human psychic passion and urge. So even economic ideas root back to these drives.
But the text's contrasting view is key. Both socioeconomic life and our biology are guided by fundamental psychic urges. So ignore the biological psychic basis in your socioeconomic theory, like Marxism or Eurocommunism supposedly did, and it's bound to fail. That's the argument presented.
Yeah, and it introduces spiritual thirst and spiritual hunger as fundamental human propensities, alongside others like dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Spiritual longing is positioned as absolutely central.
And it claims humans can't really deviate from the thought waves of the universe's controller, Ishvara, or the recognized spiritual path. Theories or cults that try to go against this fundamental grain won't last.
Then we get some Sanskrit terms for urges. Uditana, urge to overcome obstacles. Udvrti, passion to threaten obstacles. Vritti, propensity based on desire. And bhavapravanata, sentiment overriding practicality.
So these four utsitana, vritti, bhavapravanata are the drivers of the human psyche. And the point is, socioeconomic theory and culture must account for them.
Exactly. The example given is farmers under communism. Their basic human psychology, like attachment to land, clashes with collectivist ideas. Ignoring these fundamental drives leads to system failure, according to this analysis.
And it wraps up by bringing it back to the individual. Use the human body well, forget past regrets, focus on the present for spiritual growth, dedicate yourself to a higher purpose, a call to action based on this whole framework.
It's certainly been quite a journey through this document. Very dense, very rich material.
Definitely dense.
The way it attempts to weave together biology, psychology, spirituality, even sociology.
Yeah.
It's quite ambitious. And yeah, some connections are, let's say, unexpected.
They are.
But engaging directly like this, without a summary beforehand, it really does force you to grapple with the ideas themselves, the nuances, the intricate relationships being proposed. It encourages a different kind of reflection, I think.
Absolutely. Thinking about this core idea, the body as a biological machine, intertwined with the psyche, it gives you a lot to chew on. So a final thought maybe for you listening. How does this perspective challenge or maybe reinforce your own understanding of free will, of personal agency? If we are these biological machines guided by deeper urges and glands, what does that mean for how we navigate our lives and how we structure our societies? Something to definitely ponder after this deep dive.